Hey y'all, it's Ashley Bookishrealm and I am back with another video. So as you can see from the title of today's video, I'm here to talk about the worst books that y'all have read so far this year. I really like doing this video. This is probably, I think, the second year that I've done this, but I typically do it once during the midpoint and then once at the final end of the year, where I look at the best books you've read and the worst books that y'all have read. And it's always interesting because sometimes I share sentiment, sometimes I haven't read the books that you're talking about, but I wanted to go ahead and dive in. I usually do about 6 to 8 selections. I post the question on Instagram, so if you ever want to be a part of this, follow me on Instagram, and I do these like polls, questions randomly throughout the year. Sometimes I use them for other topics, and I always keep people anonymous. Like, I don't actively share like who you are, just for your own safety and your thoughts. So we're going to choose a couple of titles here. I got a good amount of responses, and some of them were duplicates, and I'm quite shocked. For one of the titles, I was kind of shocked, but let's go ahead and dive in. The first one that I want to talk about is Faebound by Sarah L. Arafi. I can't remember the title of the other book that this author has written, and it's like I can see the cover, but the title's not coming to me. I'm also very, very tired right now, so that's also a huge reason why I probably can't remember. Retention and recalling right now is just not my, it's not my end game. But I have been hearing like middle of the road things about Faebound, and I am super shocked about it. I'm not sure what, and I've tried to stay so far away from reviews because this is one of those times where I've seen fantasy, and y'all know fantasy is not my strongest topic, and I saw it and I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. It's a shorter book. I don't know if that plays a role into whether it's an issue, whether it's character development, plot development. I've been actively staying away from reviews of Faebound. However, multiple of y'all put Faebound as one of the worst books that you've read this year, and that is absolutely devastating, and that makes me extremely nervous to pick it up. I do not think that I currently have Faebound checked out from the library. I think I did, but I had some other things that needed to take priority first, so I still will be trying to get to it at some point this year, but that makes me so nervous. Now, somebody put this book, and I want to know why you didn't like it. Like, what was it about it that you absolutely disliked? And that is Night Watching by Tracy Sierra. I really like this. I've read a handful of adult thrillers this year, and I have been making my way through some YA thrillers as well, and I have not been impressed by the 2024 releases. However, reading Night Watching, I was very blown away by it, especially because it's a debut. Ironically, I was literally just asking my coworker about it because we were all in the office talking about the pros and cons of Freida McFadden, and I had asked my colleague like if she primarily just read horror or she also read thrillers, and I had brought up Night Watching, and it was one that she really, really enjoyed as well. I used to not be a huge fan of like the unreliable narrator type of vibe, but it worked very, very well in this book, and I really ended up enjoying it. The pacing, I actually finished this book in a day, and it was one of those thrillers that kept me on my toes and kept me guessing. I literally had no idea what direction the book was going to take me in, so I'm very curious as to why like you did not like Night Watching. Like, what element about Night Watching did you absolutely hate? Because Night Watching worked for me so much. That's so interesting. Okay, so one of you said Remarkably Bright Creatures, which is so interesting because I feel like that book is so acclaimed, and I think it was attached to maybe somebody's book club. Let's see whose book club it was attached to, because I have seen that book so much. Oh, it was a Jenna. I think it was a Jenna pick. Yes, I've seen that book so much. Although I particularly have had no like desire to pick it up. I know that it is, people read it a lot. People at my job have read it and have really enjoyed it, but this person who did not like it specifically said just awful all around, especially the whiny lazy white man. I can already tell you that's probably not going to be my cup of tea. So I have not, like I said, I've not had strong inclinations to read it, and that does not make it any better or more interesting for me to want to check out. The next one that we have is Chlorine. I am shocked. I keep bringing up a lot of my coworkers because librarians, we do read, and she had told me she read Chlorine twice in 1 week, and that's how much she enjoyed it. She read it twice in 1 week. I had started it maybe a few months ago, but I had so many other things that I was reading, I had to put it off to the side. I will say I'd started listening to it on audio, and I must say it is one that I had to start listening to slowly, because I think conceptually it was kind of hard for me to reckon with this surrealism attached to it, and the content itself was a lot, and I can understand why it would be overwhelming for someone to pick it up, because it is so heavy. And granted, I never made it to the end, but we have another colleague that doesn't like anything that's like too squeamish or anything like that, and she was specifically told, like, yeah, just don't pick this one up. So I think I will get back to this one. But the comment that was attached to Chlorine was, it burned like swimming in a pool with my eyes open. Listen, I know the feeling of swimming in a pool and getting chlorine in your eyes, and your eyes are like really, really dry, and they're red, and they burn, and they're achy. That must have been a horrible, 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 horrible reading experience for you. And I'm so sorry that it was a horrible reading experience for you, because my goodness gracious. Like, I think at some point I will go back to checking out Chlorine this year. I just don't know when. But I do know that I want to get back to it, because it just intrigued me that my colleague was like, she read it twice in 1 week, and that's how much like she really enjoyed it. The next one that I have is by an author duo that I have read 2 books from, and both of those books were super, super mid reads for me, and I have not read them since that time. And I can't even remember the 2 books by them that I've read, but they weren't like anything that was awe-inspiring. And so this person chose Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren. They are a huge thing in the book community. I really do think that they already had some good traction. They had some good like readership, but I feel like TikTok also upped their readership in a way that now getting a copy of anything Christina Lauren from the library is like, it's super, super difficult, or you have to be willing to like wait an extensive period of time unless you go out and you buy the book yourself. But I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I have given them a chance. Like I said, I've read 2 books by Christina Lauren, and to be quite frank with you, I do not have any serious interest in picking anything else up. Like, I don't know, I feel like because I've been burned, and it is not even, I shouldn't even say I've been burned twice, because at the end of the day, when I think about it in the grand scheme of things, they were both like 3.5 star reads, which for me, a 3-star book is not a bad book. It is a solid, middle of the road, average book. I won't not recommend it, but it's not something that like I'm running to recommend. 9 times out of 10, I feel like there are probably books along the same like genre or subject matter that are probably stronger. And so it's one of those things where it's like, I don't personally feel like they've done anything drastic enough for me in the romance genre to want to keep running back to them. Now, that's granted, I haven't read them in a few years, but I don't have any strong inclination to do so, if that makes any sense. Someone said, my attempt at a couple pages of New Moon, I just can't. I tried book 1 last year. No, I could have told you that. I will never, you cannot pay me enough to revisit that series. I did a project with Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany a long time ago. This would have been like 4 years ago at this point, where we reread all of the Twilight books and we read Midnight Sun. Now, keep in mind, I had read the Twilight books when I was a junior, senior in high school. I saw the movies as they were coming out. They were a big part of my young adult like reading experience. And it's amazing when you get older and you go back and you read books that you enjoyed as a teen and you see them from the lens of an adult that's had more life experiences. You're more in touch maybe with what's happening on a global scale to communities outside of your own lived experiences. And it's like alarm bells go off whenever you do that, because I have seen things that I have read. I have reread stuff from the past and I'm like, oh my God. Why did I find this to be like quality, you know, great books? But then I think about the fact too that I was young. It's very angsty. It's very much so something that would catch the attention of teens. But also I think that Twilight is so harmful. The rhetoric behind Twilight is super, super harmful when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. And so I ended up doing this whole video where I talked about like the nostalgia of Twilight is not enough. And I don't know shade, but I always feel like there's a gap whenever I see like creators who gush over Twilight and they're grown folks. I always feel like there's a gap between me and them, and like we're seeing two different things when we're reading this, which we all bring different experiences to the table. Some of us are better able to like not acknowledge things, but I can't gush over that series. So listen, I promise you, get it. Book 1 is rough and it continues to get rough, and reading Midnight Sun further confirmed that this book series is probably one of the most toxic things that I've seen that is readily available and widely appreciated and loved by teen audiences, because seeing things from Edward Cullen's perspective was sick and twisted and dark, and I don't know. And then I heard she's writing more books. Girl, no one asked for that. No one asked, and we don't care. But I promise you, people are going to buy them, people are going to love them, and it is what it is. Another one that's interesting to me that is on this list, and then we're going to do one more after this, is The Hurricane Wars. Now, I have been trying to be exploratory in my reading taste in the past couple of years, in genres and topics, and just kind of reading to my heart's content. Anything that has words, I'm kind of like, just let me just try it and see how it bodes over. But I literally picked up Hurricane Wars because I had it as an ALC from Libro FM, and it was all the buzz when it originally came out last year, and Libro FM was kind enough to send me as a librarian account, send me an ALC of it. And so I had a couple of people telling me like, oh, listen to it and let us know how it is. I got like 2 hours into that audiobook and I was like, yeah, no, it's such an interesting part of this whole concept of romanticy, which, if I'm wrong, correct me, is just new terminology for fantasy romance. And it's this wave of interest in fantasy romance that has been coming up in the reading community, and publishers are very keen on picking up on trends. They have a whole marketing team for stuff like that where they are looking at trends. And Hurricane Wars look like it could be a possible diverse option for people who are interested in fantasy romance. But unfortunately, I have heard nothing but mixed and horrible reviews about that book from people that I trust, who read more fantasy romance than I do, or are better about kind of sticking through and critically analyzing a lot of the newer books that are coming out that get a lot of popularity. Now, I don't know, because this is going to be a series, I don't know if I'll ever go back. I just did not feel engaged with the audio, but that could also be for a number of reasons, because when it comes to me and fantasy, audio is probably not the best way for me to ever go. It typically is not the best way for me to go. I usually need to do a blended read or just read it physically. So that also could have been a problem. But then again, when the people that you fuck with don't like something, it probably not gonna pan out too well for you. So yeah, it might just be a no for me for the foreseeable future. And the last one that I have is Assistant to the Villain, and this person said I had to DNF 10% in because of the writing. Listen, Red Tower is a beast of a conversation, like, of its own. It's a beast, and I know that Assistant to the Villain is one of those titles. Now, the only Red Tower book that I have read is Fourth Wing. I did not like it at all. But they are putting out a lot of books very quickly, and a lot of people have been saying that they're not good quality, not only in writing, but editing and actual production of the physical book. Whether that is the sturdiness of the book, the printing, the exclusive editions. Like, I saw copies of Assistant to the Villain. They were in paperback and they had sprayed edges that just looked like somebody took a can of spray paint and sprayed them. That was just how it looked to me. It was weird that they chose to do red edges on a book that was primarily purple. I don't know. It just seemed like we're just gonna spray paint this for the hell of it and go with it, and people are gonna buy it because it's Red Tower and we're pushing all of our books and people love inclusive editions. It just looked really cheap and poorly made. So to hear that the writing, which I have heard, that the writing in this is not good at all, although there's some people who find enjoyment. Listen, you find enjoyment in what you find enjoyment in. The world is too short. We currently have tensions with Russia. Like, you know, we might be blown away to smithereens tomorrow. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's kind of like a word vomit thing. I saw that on the news today. And I saw it on the news while I was at work. And this is such an aside. But I saw it on the news when I was at work and I was like, this world, man, you gotta appreciate it while you have it, because goodness gracious, that's not great. But yeah, I have not heard great things about Assistant to the Villain. And so for you to say the writing was bad, that does not shock me, because I have also heard the same thing, that the writing was not good at all. All right, y'all. So those are some of the books that you've read so far this year that you did not like. I picked out some titles basically that were duplicates and the responses. If you would like to see me do a video where I talk about the best books that you've read so far this year, let me know in the comments down below. I will be doing my own best and worst of the year so far, kind of like mid-year book freakout tags style, probably sometime next week, because that genuinely feels like it's the middle of the year. Like, next week will feel like the middle of the year, and so that probably will be coming out probably, I would say, like Thursday of next week. But let me know in the comments down below also, like, what was the worst book that you've read so far this year. And as always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. And as always, I will be back with another video soon. Bye.
Round this empty town, I'm searching for the lost and found, but you don't care.